Ayo! As usual, when I react, I just do a fantasy football search and look for a short video that that I'm able to react to. And I just ran across my guy, Fantasy in Game, and he always makes some decent link videos that I could easily react to. And he got this draft strategy won leagues in 2024. Here's how to use it in 2025. So let's get it popping. See what he's talking about.
In 2024, everyone and their uncle was going wide receiver early, which meant one thing: running backs became an absolute steal. Sharp drafters were scooping up Bijan, Gibbs, Henry, and Saquon and stacking wins all year long. Now in 2025, the pendulum is starting to swing back to running backs, but not nearly far enough. That's why the double hero RB strategy is still alive and well. And if you draft like this, you can absolutely crush your league. Let me show you exactly how to do it. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you a team I drafted recently that I absolutely love using the double hero RB strategy. Now, before I get into the actual strategy of how to execute this, let's talk a little bit about what actually is the double hero RB strategy. Well, it's kind of what it sounds like. You're going to take two very studly, very early running backs, either in the first 2 rounds or in 2 of the first 3 rounds. And these are going to be the absolute anchors of your fantasy team. And of course, the theory here is you're going to have 2 stud running backs who are going to stay healthy all year and perform close to or as expected, which is going to give you a massive advantage over the rest of your league. But you're also not giving up a major disadvantage at the other positions, because since you are taking running backs so early in the draft, it still allows you to get high-end talent at the other positions when we attack them in those middle to later rounds. Now, of course, in order to execute this properly, not only do we need to be able to take the right running backs, but we need to know when to start drafting the other positions, how much of the other positions to take, and when to circle back to running back. And that's what I'm going to break down in the meat of this video right now. So let's start with which running backs do I feel comfortable in 2025 going double hero RB with. And let's start, of course, with the first round running backs, the early running backs: Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, and Jahmyr Gibbs. You should feel just fine with any of these guys in a double hero RB build. These guys we know are going to get the touches. They have the upside to be top 2, top 3, top 1 running backs in fantasy football. No worries at all with these guys. Then we also see Christian McCaffrey in the first round. Now, I personally am totally fine going Christian McCaffrey in a double hero RB build. If he stays healthy, we know he also has the upside to be the highest scoring running back in fantasy. If you're a little more risk averse, you don't want to risk it with a guy who could miss significant time, we've seen that in the past, I'm fine passing on him. And I'm also fine passing on Ashton Jeanty, who does typically go late first round. While I like Jeanty and I think he's going to be great, and I think the volume is going to be there, I also understand there is risk, especially in this type of strategy where we're trying to mitigate the early risk with running back and get those 2 guys we can rely on all year long. So Jeanty, I love him, especially in the second round. But if you want to pass on him here because you feel it's a little too risky, totally fine with that. So in the first round, Saquon, Bijan, Gibbs, no doubt about it. I'm fine with CMC. Probably on the fence, not really feeling it with Jeanty. Now we go into the second round of the running backs I would be totally comfortable taking, again, in a double hero RB build: Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs.
All right, so first off, I'll address he said CMC if you're more risk adverse, and he said Jeanty. So I'm fine with taking Jeanty, but I think his ceiling, you just have to be honest with yourself, because his ceiling would be more so like RB6. That would be his ceiling. This is not going to be a good team. This is not going to be a good team that he's on. They are not going to do well. So his ceiling is capped. CMC, he burned me in leagues, and it's hard for me to pull the trigger on CMC. If I was able to get him at the end of round 1, I would pull the trigger on him. And that's what it is. But in the mock draft I just did, on Monday, he went 104. That's a negative. So round 2, Derrick Henry. I usually don't pull the trigger on Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry be fine. Devon Achane, definitely, on Devon Achane. Jonathan Taylor, I'm cool with that. Josh Jacobs, I'm not on Josh Jacobs this year. So I can't get on board with that one. But let's see what else he says.
The one guy I'm going to exclude from this list that we do see go in the second round in most drafts is Bucky Irving. And I get it, Bucky Irving was great last year. Maybe Bucky Irving will be great again this year. I'm not fully out on Bucky Irving, but I do understand there's risk. Either A, his efficiency dropping way down, or B, Rashad White getting more touches this year and lowering his kind of floor and his ceiling a little bit. So Bucky Irving again, I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. He's just not a guy I feel comfortable in a double hero RB build, where I know I'm going to be waiting a long time to draft my RB3. I want to feel very warm and fuzzy about my RB1 and my RB2. So Bucky Irving in the second round, not a guy I'm taking in a double hero RB build. Then finally in the third round, not a lot of options here, but there are two guys that I think are absolute home run picks in a double hero RB build, and that is going to be Kyren Williams and Chase Brown.
Kyren Williams and Chase Brown. Chase Brown, definitely. Kyren Williams, if you're getting Kyren Williams in like the second round, that's kind of steep. You get them in the third round or whatever, yeah, why not? I can't think of all the running backs that's going in the third round, the ADP currently, but Kyren, hey, he's gonna dominate the backfield. So
understand why these guys are going in the third round. They're locked in workhorse running backs in very good to great offenses. They catch enough passes. They have massive touchdown upside. If either of these guys fall to me in round 3 and I only have one running back, I'm probably going to take them and just go double hero RB. So those are the running backs I'm comfortable having on my fantasy team in a double hero RB build. But what next? Now we got to draft other positions, right? We have 2 stud running backs. How do we attack the rest of the positions? Well, that's what we're going to get to next. So what do we do after our 2 stud running backs? But we really need to attack wide receiver, because obviously we have not drafted a stud wide receiver yet, probably. So we need to get those guys. My rule of thumb here is I want one more wide receiver than my starting wide receiver spots plus my flex spots. So if you're in a league that starts 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, I want 4 wide receivers minimum before I take my next running back. If you're in a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league, I want minimum 5 wide receivers before I take my next running back. Now, I will get to a little bit later in the video, I'll talk about when I may break this rule. But for right now, let's just use this as a general strategy.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. I can have that rule in my head. I'm going to do this. we going 5 straight wide receivers, and then RJ Harvey, Trevion Henderson, Caleb Johnson would be sitting there in one of these rounds, and I'd be like, ooh. Sitting there going later, dropping to me in one of these rounds, and I just, ooh. But definitely you gotta pull the trigger. I don't know. Like I said, I can see one of them running backs falling to me, and I have to hit it. I'm definitely going wide receiver. If you already picked 2, definitely going wide receiver the third round, or if you picked a running back first and third, you better have got a wide receiver that second round. So after 4 rounds, after 3 rounds, you best have a receiver. One of them should be a receiver. So if you need to deviate, like if there are 2 starting, you can deviate. If there's 3 starting wide receivers, I really don't like to do 2 stud running backs. If it's a 3 wide receiver build, I might go 1 hero RB for a 3 wide receiver build, or just start off with receivers, because man, the wide receivers dry up quick. Now in a home league, you can get away with some stuff, but if you play best ball, you know how fast them wide receivers dry up. But I'll let them continue.
Strategy. Again, the reason being here is I am counting on my 2 running backs to carry me all season long. So I don't really need to get a 3rd or 4th running back early, because I shouldn't need them. But I need to attack wide receiver because I'm a little bit weak at wide receiver. I'm falling behind at wide receiver. So you want to start attacking wide receiver in these rounds, and you want to shoot for guys with upside. You don't want to chase those safe floor guys, because again, our running back should be giving us a very high weekly floor. We want ceiling in our wide receivers and our flexes. So take shots on guys that are a little more volatile. It's okay. That volatility will help you in the long run, again, because the running backs are giving you the safe floor. Now, what about quarterback and tight end? Yeah, I'm fine going early in these rounds to grab a QB or a tight end if the value is there. One major mistake I see, especially in our mock drafts, is let's say somebody goes Jahmyr Gibbs in round 1, then they grab Jonathan Taylor in round 2, then they grab like Josh Allen in round 3, and then George Kittle in round 4. Now you are way too far behind at wide receiver to really catch up, and they end up with teams where the wide receiver room is really ugly, their flex is really ugly, and that's not a way to win, and that's not a way to take advantage of this strategy. So sure, if one of those elite QBs falls well past their ADP, or one of those stud tight ends falls well past their ADP, I will grab them. But again, I'm then going to pivot back to wide receiver and try to follow that rule where I want one more wide receiver than my starting requirements plus my flex spots. Now, of course, the big question is, when do we take our third running back? Again, as I said, I want to wait till I at least have my wide receiver +1 over the flex spot before I think about my third running back. But I did say there's times where I will break the rules, and this is one of those times. If there's a running back that I really like and he happens to fall well below ADP, even if I don't have all my wide receivers and flex slots filled yet, I will go ahead and grab him, and I will just store it away in my memory. Like, now I really need to wait for my RB4, because now you should have 3 very good running backs that you feel great about. And again, you can always flex a running back, hopefully, so it's not like the end of the world if you don't just take wide receivers here, but I need one of those running backs to fall to me at a value. I'm not just going to take one where he normally goes just because I like him, because again, I'm counting on my 2 stud running backs to carry me all year long. So now you know what double hero RB strategy is. You know which running backs to target in your fantasy drafts and when to target them. You know how to attack those middle rounds as far as wide receiver, QB, tight end, the other positions go. And you know when to grab that third running back. Let's now dive into an actual draft I did recently. This is a Corgi draft that was on Underdog Fantasy. This is a single entry $5 tournament. Everybody just gets one team. This is the team I built, and I absolutely love this double hero RB team I built, and I think you're going to love it too. So I was drafting from the 6th spot. As you can see, I did not go running back in round 1, which is a little risky because it doesn't guarantee that you can go double hero RB. And I never go into a draft thinking I'm going to do double hero RB. If it falls that way, great. So here I did start Malik Neighbors, which is nice because I do have a stud wide receiver 1 now. Then you see I was able to follow that up with Jonathan Taylor and Chase Brown. So once I took Chase Brown here, my mindset flipped and I said, okay, we're going double hero RB. Now I got to pivot and follow my rules. And you see after here, what I did is I went very wide receiver heavy. Now I went wide receiver heavier than you probably need to go. This is a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league. So again, I want at least 5 receivers before I take my next running back. I actually ended up with 6 wide receivers here, which is totally fine because, again, going to be doing a lot of mixing and matching. But I got Ted McMillan, George Pickens, Romo Dunze, Jacoby Myers, and Michael Pittman. Tons of potential upside here. Don't forget, Malik Neighbors is my wide receiver 1. So I'm only looking at wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and flex. Plenty of upside, plenty of volatility, which is good because Jonathan Taylor and Chase Brown should give me very high weekly floors and plenty of ability to mix and match, on matchups, bye weeks. If you're in a redraft league, obviously you don't have to worry about as much in best ball, but for you redrafters, plenty of ability here to mix and match and put these guys in or out of my lineup as I see fit. Then you see, finally in round 9, I took my RB3 with J.K. Dobbins. I love that. I love getting my third running back being a guy that I feel good about, a guy I can start, again, on the bye weeks if something happens for injuries. So at least during those bye weeks, I don't lose too much of my double hero RB advantage. I don't want to wait so long that my RB3 is a complete handcuff guy who's only going to give me value with an injury. Love having a guy like J.K. Dobbins who I feel good about getting touches early in the season for those bye weeks. And then you see here, I got Dak Prescott.
We need to look at this team, my boy. Damn, this dude's in the way, but Tech, Pickens, Dunze, Myers, Pittman, Dobbins. What's this? Okay, he correlated with Pickens and Prescott. I gotta find out who they got at the tight end.
Prescott and David Njoku at QB at tight end.
All right, this is definitely a decent team. Myers, I need to target more Myers. We talked about him in another stream, but yeah.
So I still got a QB I feel great about as my every week QB1. I got a tight end I feel great about as my every week tight end 1. So you can see here how this team could absolutely smash in 2025 if JT and Chase Brown do what they're supposed to do and are studly running backs week in and week out, and Malik Neighbors is a stud wide receiver. Then I really just got to find out my other 2 wide receivers and my flex on any given week, and my quarterback and tight ends are more than good enough So hopefully this shows you how this strategy can be utilized in a real draft and how powerful this strategy can be. And look, in 2025, this was one of the best strategies. I mean, there was teams that had Bijan and Barkley, Gibbs and Henry, and just ran over their fantasy league. And I'm guessing it's probably going to happen again this year, because although running back value is not quite as good as it was last year, it's still very, very good. So there you go. Go ahead, follow this blueprint in your fantasy drafts. If you like drafting running back early, this is the way to do it and dominate. But look, if you like dominating your fantasy league, there's only one.
Yeah, so if you like his material, definitely go ahead and subscribe to him. But yeah, I will say the underdog site is just totally different. Like, I would have liked to see the rest of his team, because it's a 3 wide receiver build. It forces you to hammer them wide receivers. That's probably why he went wide receiver the first round. It forces you to go after the wide receivers, because you're going to be playing behind the 8 ball. Now, when I am doing different drafts, I do all kind of builds, builds that might not be as successful, but I just be trying different builds. Whether I can go 3 running backs first and, might pick him out wide receivers and do different things, or I might go the opposite. It's just I do different builds. But if you're trying this in your redraft league, I'm definitely would lean to going running backs first if you're in a 2 build. Of course, this is non-superflex league. If you in a 2-2 build, which is on 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers. Now, if you got the 3 wide receivers, you might want to put the priority to them wide receivers. You might want to do that. Especially in a full PPR league. So, just something to think about. But y'all let me know how y'all felt about the video. Until next time, peace.